Chapter 776. It was extremely quiet on Lin Jiej's end. Weren't you very talkative just now? Why couldn't he say a single word now? Shuyao didn't mind Zhuin's silence at all. Instead, she patiently enjoyed his silence for a moment before slowly speaking up. Do you really not know this person? It's fine if you don't know him. Let me tell you, his name seems to be Lin Jiej as well. Isn't it a coincidence that his name is the same as yours? And you know what? Lin Jiej is also from G University's mathematics faculty, and he asked me a question. Do you know what it was? He said, do you know the famous figure of G University, Lin Jiej? Ha ha ha, it's already hilarious enough for Lin Jiej to ask others whether they know Lin Jiej, but he even added influential figure in front of it. Lin Jiej's side grew even quieter. So much so that for an instant, Shuyao thought that she wasn't on the phone with Ben at all. She even lowered her phone from her ear to take a look at the screen. After confirming that the call was still ongoing, she placed the phone back to her ear. Shuyao imagined Lin Jiej's humiliated expression in her mind, and she couldn't help but feel gleeful for a moment before continuing. That's not the funniest part. The funniest part is that Lin Jiej asked me if I had any regrets in my life, and I told him that the greatest regret in my life is that God gave me the trait of a glutton, but he didn't give me the identity of a tycoon. And you know what he said to me? He said that it doesn't matter if you don't have the status of a nouveau riche, you can marry one. Then, he added, didn't you say that your fiancé came from a good family? Marrying him would resolve one of the greatest regrets in my life. I wonder if that Lin Jiej is you or not. If he is, what you were doing back then was self-promotion? Speaking of which, there's a good chance that Lin Jiej really isn't you. After all, when I told him that my fiancé wasn't mentally healthy, he replied that your fiancé might really be mentally unhealthy. I don't think there's anyone in the world who would malign themselves, right? And it's so dark. I might have made a mistake. Shuyao muttered to herself for a long time before biting on her fingertip. She tilted her head to the side and pondered for a moment before a deep frown appeared on her forehead. She muttered, weird. If you aren't 111111, why did Sis Jai share your WeChat contact details with 111,111's WeChat contact details? Or could it be that Sis Jai has two younger brothers? But I don't know. Then, what if Sis Jai's other younger brother is your elder brother? Or your younger brother? I was just wondering why it's Lin Jiej. Lin Jiej, who had been rendered speechless by Shuyao throughout the entire journey, finally realized what was going on. Without any hesitation, he mocked Lin Jiej. Can I interpret your words as saying that Sis Jai is the one who caused you to lose your avatar? Realizing that he had been exposed, Lin Jiej, but didn't you say that you don't have a WeChat account? Lin Jiej, Yao, I was wrong. Shuyao harumphed coldly. I refuse to forgive you. Liars are all puppies. Chapter 777. Shuyao felt as if a balloon had been popped. Not only did her displeasure vanish in an instant, she even felt an urge to burst into laughter. Lin Jiej, you really have no integrity at all. As long as you're not angry, putting aside integrity, I can even throw away my chastity. Lin Jiej. All right. Lin Jiej changed the topic with a strong will to live. Yao. His tone suddenly turned extremely serious, making Shuyao think that he had something important to tell her, and she subconsciously replied with an Did you miss me? His voice was already pleasant to the ear, but at this moment, he had intentionally lowered it a few notches, as if he had added some special effects to it, making it exceptionally alluring. Shuyao's heart suddenly skipped a beat. When she spoke again, she was still calling his name, but her tone wasn't as furious as before. Instead, there was a hint of coquettishness and shyness. Lin Jiej, I missed you. This time, Shuyao couldn't even speak anymore. She felt her heart beating so fast that it felt as if it would leap out from her throat at any moment. Why didn't I realize that Lin Jiej was such a flirt? It had only been a few hours since they were together, but she realized that she was already on the verge of losing control. In order to prevent Lin Jiej from continuing on this topic, Shuyao waited for her heart to calm down a little before she took the initiative to change the topic. Lin Jiej, can I ask you a question? When did you find out that Yao loves ice cream is mine? It's too early. Lin Jiej paused for a moment before continuing. It was last semester. Then why did you hide it from me? Shi Yao replied with a few mms, filled with anticipation. I'm not telling you. Lin Jiej. All right. Through the phone, Shi Yao could feel Lin Jiej's helplessness toward her. But it was this feeling that warmed her heart. Is this what it feels like to be doted on by someone? The reason I didn't tell you at the start was because I had just realized that I liked you, but you didn't have a good impression of me. So, I thought that if I were to use both methods simultaneously, I might be able to use my avatar in the game to continue fighting on the battlefield even if Lin Jiej were to die. Working from both sides at the same time. Shi Yao couldn't help but interject, Lin Jiej, you sure are scheming. In the face of Shi Yao's sarcasm, Lin Jiej took it all in and said, later on, when I agreed to cancel our engagement, I was glad that I still had this identity. Even if you didn't want me anymore, I could still use this identity to accompany you. It was just a second ago that Shi Yao was still roasting Lin Jiej, but at this very moment, her heart was filled with indescribably complicated emotions. What if I don't find out for the rest of my life, or rather, I don't like you for the rest of my life? What will you do then? The latter half of her words was really just a casual remark from Shi Yao. But Lin Jiej replied with a solemn Indeed, that's exactly what I'm thinking. If we really aren't fated to be together, I'll just accompany you and watch over you forever. Shi Yao's fingers suddenly tightened around her phone. After a long time, she finally asked softly, Lin Jiej, are you a fool? This isn't a question of whether I'm a fool or not. Lin Jiej's tone was as elegant as ever, but there was a deep emotion in his words. I just think that your happiness is more important. Chapter 778. I just think that your happiness is more important. So, if you want freedom, I'll give it to you, even if I have to let go of your hand. Even though I've put in a lot of thought in order to be together with you, there's one thought that has never changed. I really like you. Even though there were some words that Lin Jiej didn't say out loud, Shi Yao understood them. She understood the grievances that Lin Jiej had hidden behind those words. She understood that Lin Jiej had proposed to annul the engagement for the sake of her happiness. In her opinion, the happiest thing in a person's life was to meet someone who would never abandon them. There was a sentence that she'd wanted to say in a moment of desperation in the office that afternoon, but she hadn't been able to do so. She'd wanted to say the same thing at night, but she'd run away out of embarrassment. Yet, at this very moment, these words flowed naturally from Shi Yao's lips. Lin Jiej, I like you. There was a long moment of silence on the other end of the phone before the same words as before sounded once more. However, the tone had changed from a question to a statement. I've never confessed to a boy before, so I don't know how to do it. In the afternoon, there were some things that I wanted to say, but I didn't know how to say them. In fact, no matter what I said this afternoon or how I refused to let you go, I only have one reason, and that is that I like you. Like you, seriously like you. Perhaps I'm a little slow on the uptake, or perhaps I'm a little lacking in confidence and fear, but in any case, I'm late. I'm sorry, Lin Jiej, for making you wait for so long. Even though she was speaking to Lin Jiej through the phone instead of face-to-face like in the afternoon, she still couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed to reveal all of her thoughts to him. So, before Lin Jiej could respond, she hurriedly took the phone away from her ear and hung up. It didn't take long for Lin Jiej to call back. Shi Yao didn't pick up the call. Instead, she shrunk deeper into the blanket with a reddened face. A second later, the phone lit up. Lin Jiej had stopped calling and sent a message instead. You're not late. As long as you're willing to come, it's never too late. Shi Yao didn't reply to Lin Jiej's message, but after burying her face in the blanket, she couldn't help but giggle. He Tian was sleeping on the bed opposite Shi Yao, and upon seeing Shi Yao's reaction, she couldn't help but tease. The current Yao Yao is reeking of love from head to toe. Of course not. Shi Yao raised her head and refuted He Tian. A second later, Shi Yao spoke up once more. Even if there is, it would be the smell of freshly baked meat. After saying those words, Shi Yao rubbed her tummy and said, speaking of the words freshly baked, really makes me want to eat bread. Speaking up to this point, Yao couldn't help but sigh deeply. If I were in Lin Jiej's house, if he were here, if I had said those words just now, I would surely be eating freshly baked bread in less than 2 hours. He Tiantian burped loudly. Zhang Yu sighed. I'm so full. Perplexed, Yao looked at He Tiantian before turning to look at Zhang Yu. In the end, her gaze finally fell on Leng Wan. Chapter 779. After hearing Leng Wan's explanation, Yao replied with an "oh" before turning to He Tiantian and Zhang Yu and saying, "You'll have to get used to it in the future." A few seconds later, Yao spoke up once more. I'm really envious of the two of you. You get to eat dog food. Then Zhang Yu turned off the lights in the dormitory without hesitation. Sleep. Whoever says another word is a pig. Yao didn't want to be a pig, so she immediately shut her mouth tightly. Then, she rejoiced in her heart. It's fortunate that I'm not the one who's going to be the one who's going to be a dog. A dog? Ah. Yao suddenly recalled the question that Lin Jiej had asked her whether she wanted to eat dog meat. Her heart suddenly started beating wildly. The next day, at 10 in the morning, Lin Jiej had a business trip to Shanghai. Before leaving, he accompanied Yao for breakfast. He was intending to send Yao to her classroom, but as he hadn't packed his luggage yet, Yao was worried that he might miss his flight, so she urged him to hurry up. Thus, he could only part ways with her at the breakfast shop. Lin Jiej drove home first, and after packing up his stuff, he was on the way to the airport. Out of boredom, he kept sending WeChat messages to Yao, who was in the middle of her lessons. Yao Yao? Question mark. Perhaps it was because she was in class, but Yao's reply was quite similar to his style. What are you doing? What do you think? Class. Then why did you ask? I'm just asking. What's the matter? Nothing. I just wanted to tell you that I missed you. However, before Yao could reply to Lin Jiej's message, the teacher noticed that she was tapping on her phone frequently, so he called her up to answer a question. By the time Yao sat down, she saw that Lin Jiej had sent her a few more messages. Yao Yao, when I am not here, you have to take care of yourself. Yao Yao, tomorrow I want to eat steamed buns for breakfast. What about you? What do you eat? Yao Yao. Ignoring Lin Jiej, Yao switched off her phone. Learning from this lesson, Yao would switch off her phone every time she went to class, and every time she turned it back on after class, she would receive a message from Lin Jiej. Sometimes there were many, and sometimes there was only one. Yao knew that most of the time, it was because he had nothing to do and was idling around. Another one was that he was in a meeting. However, on the afternoon of the second Wednesday, right after Yao's class ended, the first thing she did was switch on her phone. The first thing she heard was a series of notifications. When her phone finally quieted down, she took a look at her notifications, only to see that 2 of them were advertisements on Taobao, and one was a notification from her mobile company. There was no news about Lin Jiej at all. This was the first time she hadn't heard from him after class since he left for the business trip. Did he forget? After packing up her textbooks, Yao followed Leng Wan, He Tiantian, and Zhang Yu out of the classroom. The more she thought about it, the more worried she felt. Eventually, she sent a message to Lin Jiej. Hello? It was only after Yao and the others had arrived at a noodle restaurant near their school and placed their order that she received Lin Jiej's reply. What are you doing? Eating rice noodles on the street behind the school. Other than rice noodles, nothing else? No more. So monotonous? Shall I order a menu for you? It didn't take long for the rice noodles to be served. Yao saw a notification on the WeChat page saying that the other party was typing. Knowing that Lin Jiej was typing, she didn't bother replying to him. Instead, she took out a pair of disposable chopsticks and began eating. Chapter 780. After reading Lin Jiej's message, Yao nearly spat out the rice noodles in her mouth. It's a good thing I didn't spit it out. If I did, I'd make him eat the entire bowl of rice noodles. With such a thought in mind, Yao replied to Lin Jiej. Why should you be the main dish? Tofu pudding and mala hot pot express my dissatisfaction. Lin Jiej. All right then, they're the main dish, and Lin Jiej is the side dish. As long as you're willing to eat, Lin Jiej can even be your dessert. Pervert. With such thoughts in mind, Yao picked up her phone. However, before she could type out the word pervert, she heard her own name. Isn't that Shi Yao? Hearing that voice, Shi Yao subconsciously turned around to look at the source of the voice. There were 3 girls sitting at that table, but Shi Yao didn't recognize any of them. Yao Yao, what are you looking at? Sitting across from Shi Yao, He Tian noticed Shi Yao's abnormality and followed her gaze. When she saw the 3 girls Shi Yao was looking at, she discreetly kicked Shi Yao's leg under the table. When Shi Yao finally retracted her gaze and looked at her, He Tian's lips moved once more. This time, her voice was extremely soft, so soft that only the 4 of them at the table could hear her. Yao Yao, why are you looking at them? Do you know them? Shi Yao shook her head. I don't, but they mentioned my name earlier. Actually, I don't know all of them, but I do know one of them. She's Qin Iran's roommate, and she's on very good terms with her. Due to the lie detector incident, Qin Iran hasn't been in school for a very long time. Furthermore, there are people on the forums who said that she was the one who coaxed Qin Iran when she was crying a lot. He Tian leaned forward and continued, It's that short-haired girl in the yellow jacket. Based on what I know, her boyfriend doesn't seem to be a decent person. Do you remember when Qin Iran hung out with a bunch of ruffians? Her boyfriend seems to be very familiar with them. Those people all listen to her boyfriend. Moreover, that girl just glanced at us again. We confirmed with her eyes that she is the one who is looking for trouble. But, Yao Yao, this kind of people, if you don't have to provoke them, don't look at them anymore. Let's quickly finish eating the noodles and leave. Zhang Yu said in displeasure, Why should we be afraid of them? Why should we hurry up and eat? Don't worry, I can take on all 3 of them. Lung Wan glanced at Zhang Yu and said, Fighting won't solve the problem. Besides, Tian also said that the people they know are all unreasonable people. If you were to really fight with them now, you won't be able to live a peaceful life in the future. They will disgust you once today, and tomorrow, they will disgust you again. I'm afraid that you won't be able to go to school peacefully anymore. Yes, Tian and Yuan are right. So, yeah, don't be rash. We won't stoop to their level. Hurry up and finish your meal. Once you're done, we'll leave as soon as possible. Tian and you will. SS said that we won. After all, she was the one who told Shi Yao where Lin Jiej and Siyu there was going to eat together that night. The girl in yellow raised the decibel of her voice as she spoke with disdain. Isn't that so? Of course that girl is prettier than her, and she comes from a powerful background. If I were Lin Jiej, I'd choose her too. I heard that Shi Yao is the mistress, and that girl is the main character. It's because of her return that Lin Jiej dumped her. But really, there's a certain someone here. She's already dumped by Lin Jiej, but she's still shamelessly sticking to him. She's really despicable and disgusting, Yao Yao. Before the girl in yellow could finish her words, a voice sounded from the entrance of the noodle shop. Chapter 782. Yao Yao. Before the yellow-clothed lady could finish her words, a pleasant voice suddenly sounded from the entrance of the noodle restaurant. That voice wasn't loud, but it was loud enough for many people to hear. Perhaps it was because some people found it familiar, or perhaps it was because the voice was simply too pleasant to listen to, but quite a few people turned their heads in the direction of the voice. And of course, the gossip-loving He Tian was among them. Upon seeing the person, He Tian's eyes widened in astonishment. It's Senior Lin. She stuttered a few times before a glint surfaced in her eyes. It's Senior Lin. Senior Lin. It was only 3 seconds after He Tian finished her words that Shi Yao finally realized who Senior Lin was referring to. But wasn't Lin Jiej on a business trip, and he said that he would only be back tomorrow at the earliest? With such thoughts in mind, Shi Yao slowly lifted her head from her bowl of noodle, and it was then that she realized that the people in the noodle restaurant had different expressions on their faces. Some were stunned, some were shocked, and some were excited. Of course, there was also the astonishment of the 3 yellow-clothed ladies. But before Shi Yao could finish admiring the expressions of the yellow-clothed ladies, Lin Jiej had already walked up to her side. Yao Yao. Hearing those words, Shi Yao raised her head to look at Lin Jiej. Then, she recalled the insulting words those girls had said earlier, and she couldn't help but think that if it weren't for Lin Jiej, she wouldn't have been harassed by them so much. In that moment, She couldn't help but curse Lin Jiej in her heart as femme fatale. After that, she ignored Lin Jiej and continued making friends with the rice noodles. Seeing Shi Yao's reaction, Lin Jiej was taken aback for a moment. Then, he swiftly recalled everything he had done during the business trip. Other than the meeting, he had been obediently staying in the hotel alone. Did he do anything wrong? Why was Softbun ignoring him? Lin Jiej blinked his eyes innocently before calling out once more, Yao Yao. This time, there was a hint of fawning in his voice. However, Shi Yao didn't seem to care about what was going on around her. She was focused on eating her noodle. Seeing that Shi Yao was still ignoring him, Lin Jiej could only turn to the spectators for help. He turned his gaze toward Lung Wan, He Tian, and Jiang Yu, who were seated at the same table as Shi Yao. He Tian had always been a spineless person. Before Lin Jiej could even look at her, she had already spoken up. Senior Lin, hurry up and take a seat. As she spoke, Tian moved a stool for Lin Jiej and placed it beside Shi Yao. Traitor. Shi Yao cursed He Tian as she bit down on her rice noodles. Lin Jiej politely thanked He Tian before taking a seat. Jiang Yu took the menu and passed it over to Lin Jiej. Senior Lin, have you eaten? Would you like to order something to eat? Traitor number 2. Shi Yao cursed Jiang Yu with gritted teeth as she continued chewing on her rice noodles. Thank you. However, instead of looking at the menu, he pointed to Shi Yao's bowl of rice noodles and said, I'm the same as Yao Yao. I'll eat whatever she eats, lackey. Shi Yao silently labeled Lin Jiej in her mind. After hearing Lin Jiej's words, He Tian immediately ordered a bowl of rice noodles for him. Chapter 783. Sitting beside Shi Yao, Lin Jiej stared at her for a moment, but seeing that she still wasn't looking at him or intending to talk to him, he could only speak up amicably, Yao Yao, I brought you a gift. It's in the car, and it's a local product that I personally picked out. I've tried it, and it's really delicious. It can't be, right? I've already brought it out, but Softbun is still ignoring me? Could it be that she's angry because I didn't tell her about it? After a moment of contemplation, Lin Jiej spoke up once more, and his tone was even more fawning than before. There wasn't the slightest hint of displeasure from Shi Yao's indifference toward him at all. Yao Yao, I was planning to return tomorrow, but I finished everything this afternoon, and I couldn't wait to see you. So I changed the date. I didn't tell you because I wanted to give you a surprise. She's still ignoring me? Softbun doesn't seem like the type to throw a tantrum. Something's wrong. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej scanned the surroundings, and he realized that there were quite a few people looking at him and Shi Yao. Actually, this wasn't anything out of the ordinary. Ever since junior high, whenever he appeared in crowded places, there would always be people sneaking glances at him. But this time, the gazes that everyone was looking at him were different from the usual astonished and excited gazes. It was more as if they were watching a play. Furthermore, those gazes that were on him and Softbun would occasionally turn to look at the table beside them. There were 3 girls sitting at that table, and their expressions didn't seem right. It seemed that before he came, there really was a story that happened. But what exactly happened? Lin Jiej thought that Softbun probably wouldn't tell him even if he were to ask her now, so he turned his gaze to He Tian. This girl seems to be supporting me unconditionally. She'll probably take the initiative to talk about it, right? Meeting Lin Jiej's gaze, He Tian said agitatedly, Senior Lin, you must be exhausted after traveling for so long, right? That's not what I wanted to say. But in the end, they were still family, so Lin Jiej didn't dare to act rashly. Even though he was displeased, he still put on a friendly expression. I'm not tired anymore after seeing Yao Yao. After replying to He Tian, Lin Jiej turned to look at Jiang Yu. I hope that this one is a little smarter, Jiang Yu said without thinking. Senior Lin is so good to Yao Yao. Lin Jiej suppressing the helplessness in his heart, Lin Jiej maintained his good-natured demeanor and said, Isn't that obvious? She's my girl. If I don't treat her well, who should I treat well? By the side, Long Wan, who had just finished her rice noodles, couldn't help but rub her throbbing glabella in astonishment at Jiang Yu and He Tian's intellect. Then, from the corner of her eyes, she noticed that the 3 girls were about to pay the bill and leave. Weren't you very excited just now? What, now that you've been slapped in the face, you want to leave? How could there be such an easy thing in the world? With such thoughts in mind, Lung Wan didn't even wait for Lin Jiej's gaze to fall on her before speaking up leisurely. Senior Lin, I heard that some time ago, Yao Yao happened to bump into you having dinner with a female student at a restaurant, but you ignored her completely? Chapter 784. Could it be that the three girls found out about this matter and said it out loud to ridicule Softbun? Even though Lin Jiej didn't know what was going on, he had a feeling that it wasn't too far off from his conjecture. Thus, he took out his phone and said, I need to buy something first. Are you for real? Lung Wan has already said those words, but instead of speaking up for Yao Yao, Senior Lin wants to buy something first? He Tian couldn't help but feel a little displeased. Senior Lin, what do you need to buy now? Lin Jiej tapped on his phone screen as he replied, Durian, instant noodles, a keyboard, a washboard, so that I can apologize to them at home. Hearing those words, Shi Yao, who hadn't shown any reaction ever since Lin Jiej appeared, couldn't help but burst into laughter. Seeing Shi Yao's laughter, Lin Jiej's heart finally calmed down. Noticing that she had stopped eating, he hurriedly took out a napkin and passed it to her. Yao Yao, I've only had a meal with a girl recently, and it was to discuss work. Hearing Lin Jiej coaxing Shi Yao amicably, Lung Wan unhurriedly shot another glance at the three girls by the side. Of the three girls, the one in yellow was clearly unable to hold it in any longer. How could they possibly hold it in? It was just a moment ago that they had mocked Shi Yao so confidently, piling all of the nasty words on her. Yet, in the blink of an eye, Lin Jiej had appeared, and he was even coaxing and pampering Shi Yao. It was a slap in the face that came too quickly. It was likely that the three of them were still in a daze. With so many students gathered here, this matter would surely spread to the ears of every single student in the academy. By then, the ones to be mocked wouldn't be Yao Yao but them. With such thoughts in mind, Lung Wan's lips curled up into a cold sneer. Noticing Lung Wan's reaction, Lin Jiej followed her line of sight, and after seeing the awful expressions on the faces of the three girls, he was even more certain that Soft Bun's unhappiness had something to do with them. Didn't they think that Soft Bun was no longer important to him, just because they saw him eating with Liang Xiao and ignoring her? Heh, I'll show them what it means to be important. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej spoke up once more. Right, Yao Yao, didn't you say that you wanted to soak in a hot spring some time ago? Soak in hot springs? Shi Yao looked at Lin Jiej with a confused look on her face. As if he couldn't see her expression, Lin Jiej continued, It just so happens that I'm free this Saturday, so I'll accompany you. However, I have a meeting on Sunday morning, so I might not be able to accompany you. As he spoke, he turned to the other three girls in his room and asked, May I know if you have the time? If there is, let's go together. When I am busy, you can accompany Yao Yao. He Tian replied in disbelief, Ah, shall we all go? Zhang Yu hesitated for a moment. Won't that be too expensive? That won't happen. Money isn't as important as Yao Yao, Lin Jiej replied as he discreetly glanced at Luo Ruoxin. The three girls had already run out of the noodle restaurant. Chapter 785. After leaving the noodle restaurant, Lin Jiej had intended to bring Shi Yao to the movies that afternoon. Coincidentally, Shi Yao told him that she, Lung Wan, Zhang Yu, and he Tian had also agreed to watch a movie that afternoon. Thus, Lin Jiej's two-person trip turned into a five-person trip. By the time they were done with the movie, it was already evening. The five of them had dinner together before Lung Wan, Zhang Yu, and he Tian tactfully parted ways with Lin Jiej and Shi Yao under the excuse that they needed to go shopping. It was still early, and Lin Jiej and Shi Yao's current location wasn't too far away from Hohai. Thus, the two of them took a stroll along the lakeside before Lin Jiej sent Shi Yao back to school. This time, Lin Jiej parked his car at the north gate of the school. On the way back to Shi Yao's dormitory, they happened to pass by the field. Just as they were passing by the basketball field, Lin Jiej suddenly halted his footsteps. Shi Yao turned around and asked, What's wrong? Lin Jiej stared fixedly into Shi Yao's eyes for a moment before he finally asked the question that had been on his mind the entire afternoon. Speak, what happened earlier in the afternoon? Yao was stunned for a moment before she realized what Lin Jiej was referring to. Even though the three girls had said a lot of nasty things, it didn't affect her too much. On the contrary, they didn't gain anything from it either. Besides, their words were really nasty, so Yao didn't want to repeat herself. Thus, she shook her head and said, "It's nothing much. It's all in the past now." How can it be that easy? Seeing that Yao wasn't willing to speak, Lin Jiej took the initiative to ask, could it have something to do with the three girls sitting on the right during lunch? Lin Jiej hadn't left her side for the entire afternoon, so it couldn't have been Lung Wan, Jiang Yu, and He Tian who told him about it. So, he must have guessed it himself? Yao couldn't help but sigh in her heart. Just what kind of intelligence and observational skills did he possess? To think that even something like that would fail to fool him. Since Lin Jiej had already figured out the gist of the matter, Yao naturally wouldn't hesitate any longer. She nodded her head and replied with an before continuing, "That girl in yellow is Qin Iran's roommate, as well as her good friend. She probably felt indignant on Qin Iran's behalf, so she said some nasty words to me after seeing me." Before Yao could finish her sentence, Lin Jiej's eyes had already turned cold. What did they say? Must I say it? Yes. Yao pondered for a moment before her lips moved. She picked out some key points and explained them to Lin Jiej. "They said that you dumped me and that my engagement was cancelled. I'm no longer your fiancée but your wife. They also said that you only got together with me for novelty, and after you chased after me, you found it boring, so you turned around and left me. Then, they said that I shamelessly pestered you and beat you up. As for the rest, you already know. It's what Wan said. They brought up the photo of you at the restaurant that day when you refused to leave and refused to talk to me. Then, they used all sorts of excuses to insult me. They said that my background wasn't as good as hers and that the girl was the real." Chapter 786. Forget it? Lin Jiej sneered coldly. "I'm not that easy to deal with. Do you really think that I'll let you off just like that? Dream on. What else do you want then? You can't possibly run over to argue with them, can you? Besides, it's not like you haven't heard of this saying before. If a dog bites you, are you going to bite it back? Of course not." Hearing Lin Jiej's reply, Yao was just about to refute him. But before she could say anything, Lin Jiej spoke up once more. "Of course, I'll fight back." Yao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. A moment later, seeing that the young man's complexion was still as awful as ever, she reached out to tug on his pinky finger and said, "All right, you're talking about me. So why do you look even angrier than me?" Lin Jiej's expression softened a little, but his eyes were still frighteningly cold. Left with no choice, Yao tugged on Lin Jiej's pinky finger once more and shook it lightly. Her voice grew even softer as she said, "Even though I wasn't too happy in the afternoon, and I even blamed you for being a femme fatale, I was still quite happy in the end. So, look, I'm fine now, so don't be angry anymore." All right. Lin Jiej's expression eventually softened, and his anger dissipated under Yao's words. In the end, he opened up his arms and said, "Come, let me hug you." Yao's face reddened upon hearing Lin Jiej's abrupt change in topic. She looked around, and seeing that there were quite a few students running around, she whispered, "There are so many people watching us. I can't wait for the entire world to see us," Lin Jiej said as he pulled Yao into his embrace. He hugged her for a moment before lowering his head. Knowing what he was going to do, Yao tilted her head away slightly and said, "Lin Jiej, don't push your luck." "All right, I won't push my luck. I'll push my luck," Lin Jiej said as he pressed his lips against Yao's. "I won't push my luck. I'll push my luck." In other words, I'm not just going to kiss you. I'm going to do something even more outrageous. The redness on Yao's face deepened, and she couldn't help but raise her hand to pinch Lin Jiej's waist. The young man didn't dodge her forceful grip, and his kiss deepened instead. Half an hour later, Lin Jiej escorted Yao back to the female dormitory. He waited for her to enter the female dormitory before returning to the male dormitory. That afternoon, he immediately told Lu Binlai and Xia Shangzhou about the matter through WeChat and told them to tag along. The one who was the most excited upon hearing this news was none other than Lu Binlai, who was going to meet his future girlfriend. As such, as soon as Lin Jiej entered the dormitory room, Lu Binlai immediately pulled out a chair for him and poured him a cup of water. Xia Shangzhou, who was lying on the bed, chuckled when he saw this scene. Lu Binlai didn't mind Xia Shangzhou's sarcasm in the slightest. After Lin Jiej had settled into his seat, he even ran up to him and massaged his back. "Boss, are you feeling unwell? Just tell me. I promise to serve you until you're comfortable." Xia Shangzhou put on an expression that said he couldn't bear to look at Lin Jiej as he pulled the blanket over his face. But before Lu Binlai could continue massaging him, Lin Jiej waved his hand and said, "I'll go take a bath first." Lu Binlai, "Boss, I'll prepare some hot water for you." "Thank you, but there's no need for that." Lin Jiej stood up and grabbed a towel and pajamas. "All right then, boss, feel free to tell me what you need." Lu Binlai said as a thought suddenly came to his mind. He ran over to his table and passed a box over to Lin Jiej. "Boss, this is a gift that old Xia and I pooled our money together to buy for you." The box was wrapped in a paper bag. Lin Jiej took it from Lu Binlai and opened it to take a look before swiftly closing the bag and tossing it back onto the table. "Boss, aren't old Xia and I especially considerate?" Ignoring Lu Binlai's words, Lin Jiej began making his way to the bathroom. "Boss, what's with your reaction? Don't tell me that you didn't need it for the 2 nights we went to the hot spring?" Hearing those words, Lin Jiej's footsteps halted. "Do you think that 1 box is enough?" Before heading into the bathroom. Chapter 787. Lu Binlai. "Boss, it's a box of 4. 4. You should know that it's only for 2 nights. 2 nights. Xia Shangzhou, who had been silent all this while, also spoke up. "Boss, even if you're really capable, you must restrain yourself. Overindulgence will harm your body." "What do you mean by even if I'm really capable? I'm clearly capable." Lin Jiej couldn't be bothered to listen to the 2 fellows' screams, so he locked the bathroom door from the inside. While he was showering, Lin Jiej couldn't help but recall the gift that Lu Binlai and Xia Shangzhou had pooled their money to buy for him to end his single life. A box of birth control products. Honestly speaking, he had been too preoccupied with slapping those 3 women's faces that he hadn't thought too much about anything else. It was only when Lu Binlai passed him the box of birth control products that he remembered that they would have to stay in the suburbs for 2 nights to enjoy the hot spring. But given that they were already in a relationship, he and Softbun should be staying together for these 2 nights. As much as he wanted to stay together with her, he didn't dare to hope that it would happen so soon. Besides, she was already his girlfriend now. If they were to really stay together, he couldn't guarantee that he wouldn't do anything to her. Lin Jiej, who didn't have any other thoughts in his mind, suddenly felt an inexplicable sense of nervousness toward the hot spring. Amidst the nervousness, there was also a hint of anticipation. When Shi Yao returned to her dormitory room, she realized that Long Wan, He Tian, and Jiang Yu weren't back yet. It's already past 10, and the shopping mall should be closed by now. Shi Yao frowned. Still worried, she picked up her phone and sent a message to the dormitory room's WeChat group. He Tian was probably playing with her phone at the moment because she instantly replied to her message, saying that she was already at the entrance of the school. Seeing that they were fine, Shi Yao put down her phone and went to shower. Halfway through her shower, Shi Yao heard some commotion outside, and she knew that Lung Wan and the others had returned. By the time she finished her shower and came out of the bathroom, Lung Wan and the other 2 had already changed into their pajamas. They were busy with their own things, reading books and watching dramas. As Shi Yao dried her hair, she couldn't help but ask curiously, "What did the 3 of you go shopping for? It took you so long to come back?" He Tian asked mysteriously, "Why don't you take a guess?" "How could I have guessed that?" Shi Yao pouted as she picked up the hairdryer and began drying her hair. Jiang Yu and He Tian didn't say a word anymore, but the 2 of them were conversing furtively with one another. From time to time, they would even let out a sinister chuckle. Even Long Wan, who usually didn't like to fool around with them, couldn't help but smile from time to time. Of course, Shi Yao could tell that the 3 of them must have done something behind her back. Seeing that they weren't going to talk about it, she put down the hairdryer, turned around, and glared at them angrily. "I'm going to get angry if you don't tell me." I'll tell you, He Tian said as she glanced at Jiang Yu. Jiang Yu immediately took out a bag of teenage girl powder from her bed and passed it to Shi Yao. Actually, We didn't hide anything from you. We went shopping earlier tonight, and we bought these. Lung Wan closed the book. This is for you. It's a gift for you to end your single life. A gift for getting out of singlehood? Did they go shopping to buy her a present? Is it delicious? Shi Yao subconsciously asked. Seeing that the three of them were staring at her with a hint of danger on their faces, she took the initiative to open the bag and said, I knew that the three of you treat me the best. Before Shi Yao could finish her words, she was already petrified by the first gift that she opened. Chapter 788. Before Shi Yao could finish her words, she suddenly froze as she stared at the first gift in front of her. It was a small pink panty. The main point wasn't the panty or the color of the panty. The main point was that the material of the panty was extremely thin, so thin that it was negligible. To put it simply, Shi Yao felt that there wasn't much of a difference between wearing the panty and not wearing it. She, the three of them, gave her a present to get rid of the single, and this was it? Shi Yao held the panty in one hand and froze for a moment before she finally recovered from her daze. In the next second, she threw the panty at Jiang Yu's face and bellowed, Why you're going overboard? Jiang Yu pulled the panty off her face and said, Yao, tell me, how did we go overboard? He Tian, that's right. Yao, this is a token of our sincerity. How can you say that we went overboard? My heart hurts. Shi Yao was rendered speechless by He Tian's words. With a reddened face, she glared at Jiang Yu and He Tian, who were carefully folding the panty she had thrown earlier. Stomping her feet, she couldn't think of anything else to say, so she repeated her words once more. I don't care. The two of you are going overboard, and you're going overboard. Jiang Yu. All right. Even if you don't like this one, why don't you take a look at the others? Shi Yao glared at Jiang Yu and He Tian before lowering her head and continuing to open the other gifts. This time, it was a black lace negligee. Just like the panty from before, it was made of see-through material. But of course, this wasn't the main point. The main point was that the negligee was paired with a pair of silk stockings. Even though Shi Yao had never paid attention to such things before, she still knew about them. This wasn't a negligee at all. It was clearly a kinky lingerie. This was even more overboard than the panty from before. This time, Shi Yao wasn't as impatient as before. She casually placed the nightgown on the table before moving on to open the remaining paper bags. The third time she opened it, it was still a set of clothes. This time, there was more material, but it was a nurse's uniform. The fourth time she opened it, it was a school uniform. What was going on? After unwrapping the gifts, Shi Yao stuffed the clothes back into the bag before tossing them onto He Tian's bed and said, Bao rejects your kind intentions, and I'll send each of you a pair of rolling eyes. He Tian picked up the clothes scattered all over her bed and said, Yao, how can you reject our goodwill? Don't you know that this brand of clothing is very expensive? Jiang Yu said, That's right. We can't even bear to buy such expensive clothes for ourselves, but we ended up buying them for you. Aren't you wasting our money by refusing to accept them? Shi Yao, if you think it's a waste, you can wear it. Doesn't that mean I don't have anyone to wear it on? If there is, I will definitely wear it. As He Tian spoke, she picked up the nurse uniform and gestured it in front of her. Yao, look at how beautiful this uniform is. If you put it on, I guarantee that you'll be a feast for the eyes. Tisk. Shi Yao scoffed. I'm not an ice cream ball, so why should I be a feast for the eyes? Chapter 789. He Tian nodded vehemently and chimed in. That's right, Yao. Isn't that your favorite food? The reason why we're giving you these things is to cater to your tastes. We're giving you a feast. Feast? Shi Yao's eyes lit up, and her interest was piqued. What feast? How many dishes? Is there my favorite Häagen-Dazs ice cream? Jiang Yu hesitated for a moment before replying, If that's the case, I guess you'll have to ask the main character himself, He Tian. That's right, we really don't know how many dishes there are. You'll have to see if the feast is good or not and how many dishes it can give you. The more Shi Yao listened, the more confused she became. Before He Tian could finish her words, she had already interjected, Wait a moment. I don't quite understand what you're talking about. What kind of secret language are the two of you talking about? Why do I feel a chill running down my spine? Also, what do you mean by the feast itself? What in the world is the feast? It's Lin Jiej. Lung Wan, who had been silently watching the three of them chatting, suddenly interjected. What? The feast is Lin Jiej? As these words left Shi Yao's mouth, the words, the main course is Lin Jiej, flashed through her mind once more before she abruptly came back to her senses. So, when He Tian said that she would cater to my tastes and give me a feast, she was referring to Lin Jiej. And the latter part of He Tian's words about whether the feast is good or not, and how many dishes it can give me. This is clearly hinting at the thing between me and Lin Jiej. A warm sensation spread from Shi Yao's cheeks to her ears, all the way down to her collarbone. Jiang Yu. He Tian. Why you're too dirty. Why you? Halfway through her words, Shi Yao found herself at a loss for words. In the end, she could only stomp on the floor anxiously. Then, she recalled that the last person to respond to her words was Lung Wan. She turned to look at Lung Wan and said, Wan, why are you fooling around with them too? Jiang Yu interjected, Yao, Tian, and I forgot to tell you that Wan was the one who suggested this gift. He Tian. That's right. Yaya and I are just following her instructions. Shi Yao stared at Lung Wan in disbelief. Lung Wan widened her eyes in shock. Wan, you. In contrast to Shi Yao's shyness and anxiety, Lung Wan was much calmer. She placed the book she was reading back onto the bookshelf before slowly straightening her back. Looking back into Shi Yao's eyes, she asked calmly, Yao, are you really together with Senior Lin? It was just a simple question, but it caused Shi Yao's heart to deflate like a balloon, and she fell silent. She couldn't understand why Lung Wan would suddenly ask her such a question. She blinked her eyes at Lung Wan and pondered for a moment, but she couldn't figure out why Lung Wan would ask her such a question. In the end, she could only nod her head and answer Lung Wan's question honestly. Of course. Is it a lifetime of sincerity? Why would Lung Wan suddenly ask her such a weird question? Shi Yao was getting more and more confused. However, she could see the seriousness in Lung Wan's eyes, so she pondered for a moment before replying with on. Chapter 790. That's good enough. Since it's a lifelong relationship, it's only a matter of time before the two of you get together. You can't possibly think that you're just primary school students, and that your relationship will be as simple as holding hands, right? Lung Wan's voice was as calm as ever, devoid of any emotion. However, even though her voice wasn't loud, her emotionless words struck Shi Yao's ears like a bolt of lightning, jolting her out of her reverie. Indeed, she had been too busy bickering with Tian and Jiang Yu to think about such things. It was only after hearing Lung Wan's words that she finally came to her senses. Indeed, she and Lin Jiej were going to soak in the hot spring over the weekend, and they were going to stay outside for 2 nights. Then, those 2 nights, Lung Wan, who had been paying close attention to Shi Yao's expression, knew that she had woken her up. So she spoke up once more. It's Friday the day after tomorrow, and we're going to soak in the hot spring. Yao, you can't be thinking that Senior Lin is just asking you to soak in the hot spring, right? If the two of you were to stay in the same room and he were to do something to you, surely you wouldn't reject him? Hearing those words, Jiang Yu couldn't help but nod in agreement. That's right. Yao, you and Senior Lin are both adults now. Since you've already acknowledged him, and he's acknowledged you, it's only a matter of time before the two of you take that step. He Tian. That's why we wanted to give you these presents, so that you can have a beautiful memory of your first night with Senior Lin. Recovering from her daze, Shi Yao muttered softly, I just didn't think too much about it. After a moment of silence, Shi Yao spoke up once more, revealing her worries. Besides, how long has it been since I got together with Lin Jiej? Isn't it a little too fast for us to progress like this? He Tian. Huh? If this is considered fast, then what about those who sleep with each other on the first day? How long has it been since you and Senior Lin got together? How can you say that it's fast? If you continue wasting time, other people's grandchildren will already be born, but your son still hasn't. As Jiang Yu spoke, she shoved the pile of thin clothes into Shi Yao's embrace and said, All right, I'm going to take a shower. After Jiang Yu entered the washroom, Tian recalled that she had to head to the neighboring dormitory to retrieve the package her classmate had brought back for her, so she left the dormitory as well. In an instant, only Shi Yao and Lung Wan were left in the room. Lung Wan switched to another book and flipped to the first page. Just as she was about to start reading, she caught sight of Shi Yao from the corner of her eyes, who was carrying the clothes that Jiang Yu had stuffed into her hands with a contemplative look on her face. After a moment of hesitation, she turned around and said, Yao Yao, there are some things that you should just follow your heart. Shi Yao shot a glance at Lung Wan silently. Lung Wan fell silent as she turned her gaze back to the book. Although she stared at the dense mass of words on the paper, she couldn't understand a single word. She wasn't a busybody, and Shi Yao was probably the first time in her life that she had ever poked her nose into someone else's business. Chapter 791. So, when she witnessed the little things that happened between Shi Yao and Lin Jiej, she felt as if she was seeing the fantasies that she had once dreamed of. This was also the reason why she did everything in her power to help them, willing to help them regardless of anything in return, because she felt as if she had fulfilled her dream. However, she knew that it was just a fantasy, and it would never come true. It was just like how she would never dare to dream such an extravagant dream ever again. With this thought in mind, Lu Binlai suddenly flashed across Lung Wan's mind. But it only took an instant for Lung Wan to snap out of her daze. Then, as if she hadn't been in a daze at all, she focused all of her attention on her book. After listening to Lung Wan's words, Shi Yao didn't continue daydreaming. Instead, she stuffed the clothes they had given her into the closet and climbed onto her bed. Not too long after she laid on the bed, she felt her phone vibrating by the side of her pillow. She picked up her phone and took a look at the screen. It was a message from Lin Jiej. Yao Yao, let's drive 2 cars over on Friday. I'll be in one with you, and the 5 of them will be in the other. Is that all right? Shi Yao didn't have a problem with that. Sure. I have a client I need to meet that afternoon. I'll be free by 3, so we'll set off at 4. I'm fine with anything. On the first night we arrive, shall we have a barbecue? I'll have the people at the hot spring prepare the tools and ingredients for us, and we'll barbecue ourselves. Sure. Since it was Shi Yao's favorite activity, she replied with 2 consecutive messages. I want to eat chicken wings. Sure. I'll book a room when I call tomorrow. Seeing Lin Jiej's message, Shi Yao was just about to reply with an emoji, but before she could find the emoji she wanted to reply to, another message popped up on her phone. Yao Yao. It was just 2 words. However, Shi Yao knew that Lin Jiej had something else to say. She waited for around half a minute before her phone lit up once more. Lin Jiej had sent another message. Do you want to stay with me? Do you want to stay with me? Of course, Shi Yao knew the true meaning behind those words. Frankly speaking, she was indeed unprepared. However, when she thought about it carefully, it seemed like she did not need to prepare anything. Because no matter if it was now or in the future, as long as this day came, she would be as nervous as she was now. Lung Wan and the others were right. The 2 of them weren't playing house. Their relationship wasn't as simple as holding hands. She liked him, and he liked her too. She didn't reject having that kind of relationship with him, because to her, if she really had a relationship with a man in this life, that man would be him. So she really didn't have anything to worry about. Just like what Nguyen Yuan said, she just had to follow her heart. With this thought in mind, Shi Yao raised her finger and tapped on the screen twice. She stared at the words she had typed for a moment before sending it out with a hint of embarrassment. Perhaps it was because she took too long to reply to his message, but Lin Jiej couldn't wait any longer. It was a long while after Shi Yao sent her message that she finally received a reply from Lin Jiej. Yao Yao, do you know, what does your reply mean? Without any hesitation, Shi Yao replied, I know. In the blink of an eye, it was Friday. Chapter 792. In the blink of an eye, it was already Friday. Shi Yao only had classes in the morning, so it was only 1 in the afternoon by the time she returned to the dormitory room. There were still around 3 hours before the departure time that Lin Jiej had mentioned. Seeing that it was still early, Shi Yao had intended to take an afternoon nap. However, as she lay on the bed and closed her eyes, she couldn't help but think about what was going to happen tonight since she was going to be staying with Lin Jiej. She couldn't help but feel extremely nervous, and even a little bit of anticipation. Anticipation. Shi Yao buried her head in her blanket and discreetly rubbed her face. Isn't it a little too shameless of me to be anticipating something like this? Shi Yao tossed and turned on her bed for nearly an hour, but she was still unable to fall asleep. In the end, she could only climb out of bed and pack her clothes for the trip. As soon as she opened the closet, she saw the shameful clothes that Long Nuan and the others had given her. She stole a few glances at them before swiftly hiding them under her clothes and starting to pack her clothes. It was only 2 days, so she only took a change of clothes and a pair of socks. While she was looking for undergarments, she suddenly stared at the colorful undergarments in the storage box and felt conflicted. There was no way she could wear the clothes that Long Nuan and the others had given her. But shouldn't she at least take 2 sets of beautiful undergarments? Just that. Staring at the undergarments, Shi Yao pondered for a moment before climbing onto her bed with the storage box. She pulled the curtains over her bed and hid inside. She turned on her phone's flashlight before placing the undergarments on the bed to examine them. However, before Shi Yao could make a decision, her phone suddenly received a call. She took a look at the screen and saw that it was a WeChat video call from Lin Jiej. She didn't think too much about it and accepted the call. As she stared at the pile of undergarments on the bed, she casually asked, "Didn't you say that you have a meeting?" I'll be there soon." Lin Jiej seemed to be busy, so his reply was a little absent-minded. Shi Yao subconsciously raised her head to look at her phone, and as expected, Lin Jiej's head was slightly lowered, seemingly in the midst of reading a document. Afraid that she would disrupt Lin Jiej's work, Shi Yao said, "Hurry up and head to the meeting then." "Well, I haven't given you a good afternoon, have I?" If Lin Jiej hadn't brought it up, Shi Yao wouldn't have noticed it at all. However, now that he mentioned it, it suddenly occurred to her that it did seem to be the case. 3 times a day, regardless of whether he was busy or not, Lin Jiej would always make some time to give her a call. Shi Yao felt a surge of sweetness in her heart, but she stubbornly replied half-jokingly, "Is saying good afternoon to me more important than having a meeting?" "Of course, is there a need to ask?" "My girlfriend is the most important thing in the world." Lin Jiej replied confidently without any hesitation. "My girlfriend is the most important thing in the world." Shi Yao couldn't help but chuckle inwardly. However, before she could reply to Lin Jiej's words, Lin Jiej had already asked, "Why is it so dark down there?" "I'm going to sleep now." Shi Yao came up with a random excuse. But before she could finish her excuse, she noticed that Lin Jiej's eyes were fixed on a certain spot on the screen. Chapter 793. As if a hot potato, Shi Yao tossed her phone to the side in the next second. Shi Yao tried her best to calm herself down. Just as she was about to urge Lin Jiej to head to the meeting and end the video call, Lin Jiej's slightly amused voice suddenly sounded from the other end. "Yao Yao, why are you laying out a bed of underwear?" Shi Yao stammered guiltily for a moment before replying, "I'm sorting out my clothes." "Oh," Lin Jiej replied calmly, as if he believed her. But 3 seconds later, Lin Jiej spoke up once more. "I thought that you were picking out underwear for tonight." Having her thoughts exposed, Shi Yao's body shuddered. Is Lin Jiej a roundworm in my stomach? To think that he would be able to guess it. However, even though she hadn't spent much time with Lin Jiej, she had still learned quite a few tricks from him, and she had learned a few tricks up her sleeve. Thus, it didn't take long for her to calm down. Blinking her eyes, she replied as innocently as she could, "Why would I choose underwear for tonight?" That's true. There's indeed no need for it. After all, you'll have to take it off anyway. Besides, I prefer you naked." "Loser, loser. Can't I admit defeat? If I can't beat you, I'll just run away, right?" With such thoughts in mind, Shi Yao said, "Please head to the meeting. I don't want to talk to you anymore. I need to go to the toilet." After saying those words, without waiting for Lin Jiej's response, Shi Yao hung up the video call. With Lin Jiej's interruption, Shi Yao was no longer in the mood to pick out her underwear. She hurriedly stuffed the underwear into her storage box. Halfway through, her phone lit up. It was a WeChat message from Lin Jiej. I like that pink one and that white one. Oh, the black one on the far right isn't bad too. The dark green one at the bottom looks pretty good too. Well, my boyfriend is too hateful. Is it too late to return them now? Shi Yao clutched her chest before replying. What a coincidence. I don't like the ones you like. At 4 in the afternoon, Shi Yao received a call from Lin Jiej punctually, saying that he was already waiting at the school gates. Shi Yao, Lung Wan, He Tian, and Jiang Yu quickly rushed out of the room. Lin Jiej was driving his daily car, whereas Xia Shangzhou was driving an MPV. According to Lin Jiej's arrangement, Shi Yao would be with him while the others would be with him. After which, they would split into 2 groups and head toward the hot spring villa in the northern suburbs. When they arrived at the hot spring resort, it was already 6:30 in the evening, just about time for dinner. The staff of the hot spring villa had already prepared the barbecue buffet that Lin Jiej had suggested. After checking in, they headed straight to the garden of the hot spring villa to enjoy the barbecue buffet. On the way here, in Xia Shangzhou's car, the 5 of them had come to an agreement. In order to give the 2 of them more personal space, they would chat for a while after dinner before finding an excuse to leave. In fact, they had even come up with an excuse on the way here. However, in reality, they thought too much. This was because they could no longer sit still before they finished the barbecue. Chapter 794. While Guan Yaoyao was eating the chicken wings, Lin Jiej hurriedly ran over to grill the chicken wings and placed the skewers on a plate. Xia Shangzhou muttered, "What do you want to eat as usual?" Lin Jiej earnestly sprinkled some ingredients on the chicken wings as he said, "What does eating have to do with Guan Yaoyao?" Another example, raising yellow croakers in the fish pond at the hot spring villa fish pond is deep enough to help with barbecue fishing himself. Asking the hot spring workers to help clean up the barbecue, Tian suggested that each family take out 100 renminbi to compete in fishing. The one who catches the least fish who takes away the money. Yao luck is really good. She fishes the least and ends up with the most statistics. Lin Jiej pouring all the fish he fishes to Yao Lu Bin cheated Lin Jiej. Asking Yao Lu Bin to order Lin Jiej to hurry back home. What's wrong with her? Finding a boyfriend or girlfriend. Truth seeker rebuttal, watching helplessly as Yao carries a basket full of yellow croakers away. Lin Jiej and Yao's most fractal dog abuse. Do you eat? Who barbecue meat skewers? Lin Jiej eat. Yao barbecue don't eat. Even if I allow you not to eat meat skewers to shut Lin Jiej's abusive mouth while eating, and praising Yao for eating kebabs really tasty and worth mentioning is the most hurtful at home eating. When suddenly shouting Yao raised her head and asked what sentence. Shouting Lu Bin 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 Lu Bin. Would you rather let Lu Binji take it? But what did Lin Jiej mean by offering a tissue to his girlfriend? The most beautiful lady meets Xia Shang, and Zhou Bears tolerates, praises herself, abuses her organs, finds stomachache as an excuse to escape. Secondly, the maid of honor spoke to Lu Binji several times during the meal, and Lin Jiej found an excuse to avoid soaking in the hot spring. Xia Shangzhou and Lu Bin left, and Lung Wan, He Tian, and Jiang Yu stayed behind. Chung He Tian picked up the phone and called Hanjing. Chapter 795. He Tian didn't know how she should reply to Hanjing's words, so she discreetly asked Shi Yao for her opinion before replying honestly to Hanjing, saying that Shi Yao and Lin Jiej were together. Then, Hanjing was silent on the phone for a while. Without saying anything, he hung up the phone. After filling their stomachs, Lin Jiej and Shi Yao took a stroll around the man-made lake in the hot spring resort before returning to their room. On the way back to their room, Shi Yao was a little nervous. Even when she was chatting with Lin Jiej, her replies were sometimes a beat too late. In truth, she wasn't the only one who was nervous. Lin Jiej was also feeling the same way. By the time they reached their room, their hands, which had been holding onto each other the entire way, were already sweating. However, there were some things that happened much more naturally and smoothly than one could imagine. Shi Yao couldn't really remember how they ended up kissing. It seemed like after Lin Jiej returned to his room, he poured a glass of water and passed it to her. She didn't drink much of it before she placed the glass back on the coffee table, following which, she fell into Lin Jiej's embrace. Lin Jiej's kiss was far more soul-stirring than any of his previous kisses. Shi Yao's heart pounded madly for a moment before her brain was filled with mush, and she lost all ability to think. He pinned her beneath his body and kissed her passionately until she felt her head spinning, and the two of them couldn't even breathe properly anymore. In her daze, Yao felt Lin Jie's hands reaching up to her waist and into her clothes. His fingertips were slightly cold, and as they brushed past her skin, they left behind a series of chills that made her heart tremble. Yao's head felt even more dizzy, but in the end, what woke her up was Lin Jie's chuckle, following which, his teasing voice sounded in her ears. "Didn't you say that you hate wearing those undergarments the most? Why are you still wearing this pink one?" Yao was rendered speechless by Lin Jie's teasing. With a reddened face, she held her breath for a moment before muttering under her breath, "You're annoying." Then, she opened her mouth and bit down on his shoulder. He didn't dodge, letting her use a little bit of strength to bite for a while, then hugged her and turned over, letting her lie on his body, stretching out his hand, holding her neck, making her face him. "Yao, there are some words I must say first." As he spoke, Yao realized that Lin Jie's expression had turned exceptionally stern. She didn't say anything, but she returned his gaze and became more serious. "Yao, after tonight, I won't give you any chance to regret. Do you understand what I mean?" Yao nodded her head before shaking her head. She didn't really understand what Zhang Xian was saying. In truth, Lin Jie knew that it wasn't that Yao didn't understand what he meant, but that she was a little uncertain about it. Thus, after a few seconds of silence, he decided to tell her everything. "In my entire life, I only want to fall in love once, and I only want to acknowledge one person. Yao, since we're together tonight, you can only be with me for the rest of your life." His voice was very calm and light, but it carried an indescribable power that Yao couldn't describe. "So, Yao, have you thought it through?" Lifetime. It was such an ethereal phrase, but Yao believed it. Just because he was willing to let go of her even if he really liked her. Just because he did so much for her without the slightest complaint. Yao looked into Lin Jie's eyes, and without any hesitation, she nodded her head firmly. "I have." The words "I've thought it through" fell into his mouth. Chapter 796. Yao looked into Lin Jie's eyes, and without the slightest hesitation, she nodded her head vehemently and said, "I have." The words "I have" at the end fell into Lin Jie's mouth. This time, his kiss was extremely frenzied, and it was much stronger than the previous kiss. His body was burning hot, and it felt as if his entire body was on fire. Yao felt the heat rising from his lips as well. He kissed her for a very long time. His scorching lips slowly moved from the corner of her lips to her earlobe, the back of her ear, her neck, and finally, he gently bit down on her beautiful collarbone. At the same time, his fingertips moved to her back and undid the buttons of her bra one by one. In the instant that Yao felt the pressure on her chest lightening, he had already taken off her top. Hugging her tightly, he flipped over and pinned her beneath his body once more. Their breathing grew more and more chaotic. One by one, her clothes were taken off by him. Then, he pressed his lips against hers and threw off his shirt. As the smooth and perfect lines of his skin fell into Yao's eyes, she heard a ka-chip sound. Yao knew that it was the sound of Lin Jie unbuckling his belt. Following that, Lin Jie's body left her. The weight he had reduced, and the occasional ka-cha sounds by her ears made Yao feel even more nervous, and her body began to tremble slightly. Very soon, she felt another weight pressing down on her body. Lin Jie was pressing down on her once more, but this time, their lips only intertwined for a moment. Just as her head was starting to spin from the kiss, Lin Jie suddenly thought of something and muttered with a suppressed voice, "Wait a moment." Then, with one arm wrapped around her waist, he reached out with the other to rummage through the clothes scattered all over the floor. Curious, Yao opened her eyes and sneaked a glance at Lin Jie, only to see him taking out a small, colorful box from his pocket. Of course she knew what it was. Her face reddened as she retracted her gaze. However, when her gaze fell upon Lin Jie's exposed chest, her face reddened even further, and her breathing became uneven. She could only avert her gaze once more, only to see Lin Jiej taking out a small pouch from the box and placing it by his lips. In truth, this action was rather common, but Lin Jiej was born with a face that lacked any desire. Furthermore, with a small pouch in his mouth, the contrast made him look even more seductive than usual. This was especially so when the aura he was emanating at this very moment was no longer just the usual clean and refreshing fragrance that he usually exuded. Instead, it was one that was brimming with lust. This sight made Shi Yao feel that the current Lin Jiej was no different from a monster who could captivate the hearts of all living beings. Isn't that right? He's a monster. Zhang Yu and He Tian were wrong. The beautiful ice cream ball isn't her but him. While Shi Yao was lost in her thoughts as she stared at Lin Jiej, who had just opened the pouch, flipped around, and just as he was about to use the pouch, he suddenly caught sight of something on the ground from the corner of his eyes. He paused for a moment, then fixed his gaze on it. Then, he threw the small bag in his hand into the trash can beside him. Upon seeing this sight, Shi Yao frowned as she glared at Lin Jiej in bewilderment. But before she could ask him about it, Lin Jiej had already spoken up. His hoarse and deep voice carried a hint of King Dog's mental breakdown. Yao Yao, I think you should go to the washroom and lie down. Chapter 797. Washroom? Shi Yao blinked her eyes. I don't want to go to the washroom. Lin Jiej seemed to be holding his breath for a long while before he finally squeezed out a few words. But you still have to go. Shi Yao blinked her eyes again with an aggrieved look on her face. How in the world can there be such a person? I don't want to go to the washroom, and yet I'm being forced to go to the washroom. Please don't act cute. I'm really afraid that I won't be able to hold myself back, and I'll just have to fight a bloody battle with you. Lin Jiej grumbled in his heart as he averted his gaze. Then, he pointed to a certain spot on the floor, gesturing for Shi Yao to take a look for herself. Shi Yao blinked her eyes at Lin Jiej in bewilderment before following the direction of his finger. Her gaze fell onto her underwear. Shi Yao was just about to ask Lin Jiej why he was looking at her underwear for no reason, but before the words could reach her throat, she saw a bright red bloodstain on her pink underwear. Bloodstain? Bloodstain. Bloodstain. As if coming to a realization, Shi Yao pushed Lin Jiej away and glanced at the sofa. Sure enough, there were some bloodstains on it as well. Is she on her period? In the next instant, Shi Yao dashed into the washroom barefooted. As the washroom doors slammed shut, Lin Jiej flipped over a blanket and wrapped it around himself before sitting cross-legged on the sofa. Staring at the night view outside the window, he began to doubt his life. He really couldn't comprehend the current situation. Why did such a tragic thing happen to him? He had been anticipating it for so many days, and he had even taken off his clothes. Just as the arrow was about to be released, her period suddenly came. Lin Jiej wrapped the blanket tightly around himself. The more he thought about it, the more sorrowful he felt. In fact, he couldn't help but feel a sense of tragedy, as if he was going to die before he could achieve anything. Lin Jiej, Shi Yao's feeble voice suddenly sounded from the washroom behind him. It was impossible for him not to feel depressed after such a thing had happened. But even so, Lin Jiej still replied to Shi Yao's words with a gentle and elegant voice. What's wrong? There aren't any buns here. Buns? Lin Jiej frowned. Soft Bun is still thinking of eating at a time like this? But even though he was displeased, he didn't dare to show it on his face. Instead, he continued replying with a gentle voice. What kind of bread do you want? I'll go buy it for you. No, it's not eating bread, it's using bread. Lin Jiej thought to himself. Don't lie to me. He's an educated man, so how can bread still be used? Why don't you tell me how to use the bread? Let me try it. Seeing that Lin Jiej wasn't responding at all, Shi Yao thought that he still didn't know what she was referring to, so she could only speak up once more. It's sanitary napkins. It turned out that the bread Soft Bun was referring to was sanitary napkins. Lin Jiej replied with an O. Without any hesitation, he continued, I'll go buy it for you right now. Even though it was unbearable for him to hold it in between his legs, he still tossed the blanket aside, picked up his clothes, and began putting them on. Before he left, he turned to Shi Yao in the washroom and said, I'll be going now. Chapter 798. Lin Jiej halted his footsteps. What's wrong? Can't you bring some real bread along with you when you buy it? After what you said earlier, I'm starting to feel like eating it. Lin Jiej. She's still thinking about eating at this stage? Waiting for Lin Jiej's reply, Shi Yao asked once more, Can I? Can I say no to that? Even though Lin Jiej thought so, he replied nonchalantly, Sure. Is there anything else you want to eat? Ham sausage, jelly, yogurt, chocolate, fries. Darling, you sure have a big heart. Lin Jiej's voice was a little soft, so Shi Yao couldn't hear him clearly. What is it? It's nothing. I told you to wait for me. I'll be right back. Lin Jiej only wore a thin shirt as he headed out. It was already very cold in Beijing at the end of November, and the fire in his body had mostly subsided by now. Lin Jiej placed the bag of snacks Shi Yao had requested on the coffee table before heading to the washroom with another large bag in hand. He raised his hand and knocked on the door lightly. Yao Yao. The washroom door opened slightly, and Shi Yao's fair arm stretched out from within. Lin Jiej passed the bag over to her. After she retracted her hand, he was just about to return to the sofa when he heard her voice once more. Why did you buy so many? Oh, I didn't know which brand you wanted, and I didn't know whether you wanted to use them for the day or the night. So I bought one of each. Shi Yao mimicked Lin Jiej's tone and replied with an "oh." A few seconds later, she spoke up once more. Lin Jiej, Lin Jiej, who had already walked a distance away from the washroom, suddenly turned back and asked, What's wrong? Shi Yao seemed to be a little embarrassed, and she stuttered for a long while before she finally managed to express what she wanted to say. You have to pass me a pair of underwear. They're in my suitcase. Hearing those words, Lin Jiej recalled that she had indeed run into the washroom naked. He replied with an before walking over to the small suitcase Shi Yao had brought over. While Lin Jiej was helping Shi Yao look for her undergarments, the first thing he found was a ball of light fabric. He thought it was underwear and picked it up to take a look. Then he realized what it was. The side of his ears turned red. The desire that had been blown away by the cold wind outside with great difficulty once again surged in his body. Lin Jiej? Shi Yao spoke up once more. Lin Jiej hurriedly snapped out of his daze and said, He's here. As he spoke, he took out a piece of underwear from under the ball of cloth. No, I wanted to ask you to bring me a t-shirt. Lin Jiej replied with an before squatting down to pick up a t-shirt and making his way to the washroom. After passing the clothes to Shi Yao, who was in the bathroom, he sat on the sofa and stared out the window for a while. His peripheral vision kept drifting towards Shi Yao's luggage. Why did Soft Bun prepare those things? Was she going to wear it for him to see? As these thoughts surfaced in Lin Jiej's mind, he couldn't help but let his imagination run wild. He didn't even notice when Shi Yao walked out of the bathroom and walked up to him. Chapter 799. Lin Jiej? Shi Yao called out to Lin Jiej, but seeing that he wasn't reacting, she took a closer look at him. Then, Shi Yao noticed that Lin Jiej's gaze was constantly drifting in a certain direction. Out of pure curiosity, she followed his gaze and saw that it was her luggage. Was there something wrong with her luggage? Shi Yao craned her neck to examine the luggage for a moment, and she soon noticed a familiar fabric. That was the present that Long Nuan and the others had given me to get rid of my singlehood? She had clearly hidden it at the bottom of the cabinet. So how did it end up in her luggage? Shi Yao frowned. She recalled how Tian had told her to wash apples before leaving the house. Did they secretly put it in her luggage then? Shi Yao immediately stood up and ran over to her luggage to close it. After which, she turned to Lin Jiej and began babbling nonsense. I didn't buy it. They gave it to me. I don't know how I got in. No, that's not right. They secretly stuffed it in behind my back. Faced with Shi Yao's anxiety, Lin Jiej absent-mindedly replied with an Shi Yao's face burned in embarrassment. She looked around for a moment before she ran over to the sofa and bent down to pick up her underwear. She wanted to find an excuse to hide in the washroom, so she said, I'll go wash my clothes first. As she said those words, she rushed to the washroom. But barely after she took half a step, Lin Jiej suddenly grabbed her wrist. He stood up and took her underwear from her fingers, saying, I'll wash it for you. You should rest on the bed. It had been many years since her mother stopped washing her underwear. Shi Yao hurriedly shook her head and said, "It's fine. I'll do it myself." Lin Jie couldn't be bothered to argue with her, so he wrapped an arm around her waist and carried her over to the bedroom. After placing her on the bed and pulling a blanket over her, he stared at her for a moment with a fiery gaze before telling her, "Be good." Fearing that he would lose control of himself, he got up and left the room. "Good girl." Fearing that he would lose control of himself, Lin Jie got up and left. After washing Shi Yao's undergarments, Lin Jie brought out a glass of brown sugar water and placed it on the bedside table. He also brought the food that Shi Yao wanted along with him, and with a negotiating tone, he said, "You can eat first. I'll head to the hotel's cafe to get busy for a while, all right?" After receiving Shi Yao's permission, Lin Jie left the hotel room. He said he was going to work, but how could he be in the mood for work now? However, before he completely calmed down, he really didn't dare to stay in the hotel room. Being in the same room with her, and what's more, they almost did it. That feeling was too torturous. He wasn't a monk. He really couldn't take it. Lin Jie stood outside and basked in the cold wind for a while before heading out to look for Lu Binlai and Xia Shangzhou. The two of them were playing poker and were surprised to see him. "Boss, you're done? I thought you would fight until dawn." "Boss, didn't you say that one box wasn't enough? Is one of them useful now?" Faced with the ridicule of the duo, Lin Jie felt even more stifled. While the events that had transpired tonight were truly melodramatic, he couldn't accept being doubted in that aspect of his. Thus, he found a seat on the sofa and sat down. Grabbing a pillow, he hugged it tightly in his embrace and muttered 3 words resentfully, "Great Aunt." Lu Binlai and Xia Shangzhou instantly understood what he meant, and they burst into mocking laughter. "Boss, a man defeated by Great Aunt. Man? You must have used the wrong term. It's clearly a man. Boss, do you know what this is called? Don't abuse dogs, or else you'll be struck by lightning." Ha ha ha. However, it didn't take long for the two of them to lose everything they had on down to their underwear after Lin Jie's arrival and joined them in their poker game. That night, it was already 2 in the morning by the time the 3 of them finished their poker game in Xia Shangzhou's room. After they left, an accident occurred, or rather, it could be said to be an accident. Chapter 800. That night, it was already 2 in the morning by the time the 3 of them finished playing cards in Xia Shangzhou's room. After they left, an accident occurred, or rather, it could be said to be an accident. Xia Shangzhou and Lu Binlai, who had just finished playing cards, seemed to be in an abnormal state of mind, so they suggested drinking 2 glasses of wine. Lin Jie, who had already calmed down after playing cards for several hours, was worried about Shi Yao, so he rejected their suggestion and said, "You guys go ahead and drink, I have to go now." The vengeful Lin Jie remembered the merciless mockery he had received from those 2 earlier in the night. So, while he was tidying up the winnings on the table, he didn't forget to say, "I'm different from the 2 of you. I have someone waiting for me in my room, unlike the 2 of you who have nothing to worry about. Not bad. I can feed Yao Yao a few sumptuous meals with this winnings." After saying those words, Lin Jie waved the thick stack of 100 yuan bills in front of him and intentionally tossed out the words, "I'm leaving. I'm going back to see my girlfriend." After which, he picked up his winnings and left the room. Just before he left, Lin Jie seemed to have thought of something, and he turned around and said, "Even if I'm a man, I'm still a man with a girlfriend. But the 2 of you," he didn't finish his words. Instead, he shot Xia Shangzhou and Lu Binlai a look of pity and sympathy. Amidst the wails of the 2 fellows, he slowly opened the door and walked out. Then, he slowly closed the door behind him and walked away. After Lin Jie's departure, Lu Binlai and Xia Shangzhou really opened a bottle of wine to drown their sorrows in the midst of losing money and being showered with so much love. Even though they said that they were drowning their sorrows, they only managed to drink half a bottle of red wine before they left. The rooms in the hot spring villa were all independent wooden huts. Lu Binlai's room was slightly far from Xia Shangzhou's. Humming a tuneless tune, he walked along the cobblestone path alone, making many turns as he passed by wooden hut after wooden hut. On his way to his room, he encountered that accident. It was already late at night, and the hot spring villa was extremely quiet. Initially, Lu Binlai only vaguely heard some commotion, but he didn't pay much attention to it until a voice sounded from behind him. Room 601 is on fire. I got it. I'm rushing over. Someone is already calling the police? Okay, got it. I'll be there right away. As his voice fell, a security guard, while talking into a walkie-talkie, hurried past him. Fire? 601. Lu Binlai took 2 steps forward before it suddenly occurred to him that Lung Nuan's room was 601. He hastened his footsteps and caught up to the security guard. Grabbing his arm, he asked, "Did you say that room 601 is on fire?" The security guard was stunned for 2 seconds. That's right. Just now, the surveillance room suddenly issued an alarm saying that room 601 was on fire. Before the security guard could finish his words, Lu Binlai had already let go of him and dashed off. After running for roughly 10 meters, he suddenly turned around and asked, "Where is 601? The security guard raised his hand and pointed to the left, but before he could say a word, Lu Binlai had already disappeared into the darkness. Even from afar, Lu Binlai could see a fire flickering within a wooden hut. The fire was already burning very fiercely. Before Lu Bin even reached the wooden house, he could already feel the billowing hot air blowing on his face. Chapter 801. Lu Binlai scanned the surroundings, but Lung Nuan was nowhere to be seen. So, he grabbed a random person and asked, "Did the person staying in this room come out?" That person was probably here on vacation. Upon hearing Lu Binlai's question, he shook his head and replied, "I don't know. I only came out to take a look after hearing the commotion. I don't know." What kind of answer is that? Lu Binlai's voice sounded a little anxious. "When did you get here? Didn't you see anyone coming out of the room?" This time, before the person Lu Binlai was asking could reply, another person had already answered, "I came earlier than him. By the time I arrived, the fire was already very intense, and thick smoke was pouring out of the windows. However, it's been a while, and no one has come out yet. If there's really someone inside, there's a high chance that they've already fainted by now." This time, before the person could finish his words, Lu Binlai had already dashed toward the burning wooden hut. "Hey, brother, what are you doing? Given the size of the fire, you might not be able to come out if you go in. Besides, we've already called the police, and the fire brigade will be here soon." Ignoring the warning from the kind-hearted person behind him, Lu Binlai rushed to the door of the wooden hut and began shouting Lung Nuan's name. But there was no response. The door was locked from the inside. He tried pushing it twice, but it wouldn't budge. So, he turned to look at the open window by the side, and without any hesitation, he dashed toward the window. Along the way, he happened to pass by a small fountain. Ignoring the fact that it was winter, he stood on top of the fountain and quickly soaked his clothes. After which, he tore off a piece of his shirt and covered his mouth and nose before leaping into the room through the window. The room was filled with flames. Lu Binlai shouted Lung Nuan's name as he searched for her. Through the crackling of the fire, Lu Binlai heard the sound of the fire alarm outside, following which, the door opened, and someone rushed in to drag him out. Lung Nuan. After being thrown out of the wooden hut, Lu Binlai subconsciously dashed back into the hut, but he was soon stopped by the security guards. "Let go of me. I want to go in and look for someone." Lung Nuan, Lu Binlai struggled frenziedly, but due to the fact that he was unable to break free from the restraints of the security guards, his voice sounded hysterical. Perhaps it was because he was using too much strength, but his voice ended up becoming a little hoarse by the end. Even so, he continued shouting Lung Nuan's name with all his might. Just as his voice broke, a clear and cold voice sounded from behind him, "Senior Lu." As if someone had struck Lu Binlai's acupoint, he suddenly quietened down. 3 seconds later, he turned around and saw Lung Nuan standing under a plum blossom tree about 5 meters behind him. He was stunned for a moment before a look of ecstasy flashed across his face. He broke free from the security guard and subconsciously dashed toward Lung Nuan. "Are you all right? You weren't in the room. You scared me to death. I thought you were trapped inside." As he spoke, He reached out to grab Lung Wan's arm to ensure that she was fine. However, before his fingertips could even touch Lung Wan's clothes, Lung Wan had already taken a step back in extreme repulsion, dodging his hand. "I'm fine, Senior Liu." Lung Wan's voice still didn't carry much emotion. Chapter 802. No. Lung Wan's voice was still as emotionless as before. After replying to Liu Binlei's question with a distant look on her face, a moment later, she explained, "I live in Block 601 of the East Sector. This is the West Sector." Liu Binlei first replied with an "oh" before realization dawned on him. In the end, as if he didn't know what else to say, he chuckled and said, "In any case, it's still the same as before. As long as you're fine." Lung Wan fell silent. Perhaps it was due to the shock that Liu Binlei, who had always been a talkative person, noticed that she wasn't saying anything at all, so he didn't say anything either. Unlike usual, when she ignored him, he would always have endless topics to talk about. Silence fell between the two of them as the firefighters behind them hurried about. It didn't take long for the fire to be extinguished, and since there weren't any casualties, the crowd gradually dispersed. The already quiet suburbs seemed to have grown even quieter. Staring at Liu Binlei, Lung Wan's eyes flickered as she broke the silence between the two of them. "You're—" After saying those two words, she raised her hand and pointed to her hair. At first, Liu Binlei didn't understand what Lung Wan was getting at. He was stunned for a moment before he reached out to touch his head. There was a burning sensation, and it dawned on him that she was referring to the fact that he had dashed into the fire earlier. Liu Binlei, who had always placed great importance on his hairstyle, scratched his head and said, "Oh, about that. It just so happens that I've been thinking of changing my hairstyle recently and shaving my head bald, but I haven't been able to make up my mind yet. Looks like I don't have to think about it anymore. Tomorrow, I can just go to the hairdresser in the hot spring and shave off my head." Liu Binlei had always been this mischievous. Lung Wan had often been amused by Liu Binlei in the past, but this time, she couldn't bring herself to laugh. Looking at his drenched clothes and his shivering body in the early winter night, she lowered her eyelids and said, "It's getting late. I'm going back to rest." "All right then," Liu Binlei replied. Then, with a tone of negotiation, he asked, "Do you want me to send you off?" Liu Binlei had said these words to Lung Wan many times before, but every single time, Lung Wan would either reject him coldly or politely. This time, Liu Binlei's words sounded in Lung Wan's ears, and out of habit, she subconsciously wanted to say there's no need, thank you. However, just as the words reached the tip of her tongue, she couldn't bring herself to say it. In the end, she simply turned around and headed back to her room. Seeing that she didn't turn him down, Liu Binlei grinned and followed along. "It's really cold today. By the way, you've been reading in the car this afternoon. What are you reading? Have you always not liked to talk?" Girls are so young. It's better for them to be more lively. Along the way, Liu Binlei chattered non-stop. It was only when they were about to reach Lung Wan's room that she finally turned around to look at him. Liu Binlei's lips immediately tightened, and he fell silent. Walking to the door of her room, Lung Wan suddenly stopped. "I'm here. Hurry up and go in then. Have an early rest. Good night." The disheveled Liu Binlei stood under a dim streetlight and waved goodbye to Lung Wan with a smile. Chapter 803. Lung Wan leaned against the door for a moment before making her way back into the house. When she passed by the window, she took a look outside and saw Liu Binlei still standing under the streetlight, trembling in fear. She didn't linger for long before heading into the bathroom. After a hot shower, she glanced out of the window once more. The spot where Liu Binlei had been standing earlier was completely empty, save for a dim yellow light. After Liu Binlei left, Lung Wan stared fixedly at that spot. She hadn't dried her hair yet, and even though there was a heater in the wooden hut, her scalp still felt a little chilly after standing there for too long. Recovering from her daze, she walked over to the dressing table and carefully dried her hair with the hairdryer. After applying some face cream, she switched off the lights and went to bed. She closed her eyes, but despite her exhaustion, she was unable to fall asleep. Initially, she had gone to the hot spring with He Tiantian and Jiangyu, But at midnight, the three of them stayed in Jiang Yu's room for a while. Time flew by as they chatted, and in the blink of an eye, it was already 2 in the morning. So tired that she couldn't even open her eyes, she left the excited He Tian and Jiang Yu behind and left by herself. Jiang Yu lived in the west sector, whereas she lived in the east sector. The journey back home was a little long, but along the way, she heard a commotion and the sound of the fire alarm. Out of pure curiosity, she turned her gaze toward the source of the commotion, but she didn't expect to hear her name amidst the commotion. Lungnuan, Lungnuan, Lungnuan. Her voice was filled with sincerity. It came from the burning wooden hut. She couldn't shake the feeling that it was all a dream. It wasn't until the firemen dragged Lu Binlai out from the hut that she saw with her own eyes that he was still desperately trying to rush into the blazing hut that she couldn't help but clench her fists tightly. Her slightly long fingernails dug into her palms, letting her know that this wasn't a dream. Then, she turned to the hysterical male student and called out, "Senior Lu." He no longer had the flamboyant image that He Tiantian used to describe him as. Instead, he rushed over to her in a disheveled manner. In that instant, she felt as if she was hallucinating that he was even more handsome than the Lin Jiej that Lord Ji had praised. Was he sincere? He must be sincere. Even though he made a mistake and she did not stay in that room, he still risked his life to rush in. Was he really sincere? But, so what if he was sincere? In the end, she was not worthy, and did not dare to accept that sincerity. Shi Yao's period came, and the second day happened to be the most uncomfortable day out of the 7 days. So, Lin Jiej didn't go out to play. Instead, he stayed in the room to accompany Shi Yao. If she wanted to eat an apple, he would peel it. If she wanted to eat a grape, he would peel it. If she wanted to drink a yogurt, he would lick the lid. It was only around lunchtime that the two of them finally left the hotel room. The resort was well equipped, and there was a huge variety of Chinese and Western cuisines available. Shi Yao chose Chinese cuisine, and before heading to the dining hall, Lin Jiej followed Shi Yao's suggestion and gave the other 5 a call, asking them if they wanted to have a meal together. The 5 of them accepted Lin Jiej's goodwill, and when it was time to eat, Lin Jiej and Shi Yao shared a table while the 5 of them chose another table for themselves. Furthermore, their seats were as far away from Lin Jiej and Shi Yao's table as possible. Chapter 804. It was a fine day, so after lunch, Lin Jiej accompanied Shi Yao to bask in the sun since she wasn't allowed to soak in the hot spring. While they were basking in the sun, a hotel attendant brought over a plate of nuts and a piece of cake for their afternoon tea. Lin Jiej accompanied Shi Yao to watch a TV series for a while before he placed the nuts by his side and began peeling them while stuffing them into Shi Yao's mouth. The environment around them was very quiet. Other than the sound of Lin Jiej peeling the shells and the sound of Shi Yao's voice coming from the iPad in her hand, there was no other sound. The warm and radiant sunlight shone on Shi Yao and Lin Jiej through the glass window, bringing with it a sense of tranquility and serenity. In such an atmosphere, Lin Jiej's heart calmed down as well. If it was possible, he really wished that time could stay at this moment so that the two of them could grow old in peace. While Lin Jiej's mind was wandering, Shi Yao, who hadn't eaten the nuts yet, turned to look at him. Lin Jiej quickly reined in his thoughts and stuffed the peeled nuts into Shi Yao's mouth. Shi Yao smiled happily, and her eyes curved into an adorable smile. Seeing her smile, Lin Jiej couldn't help but smile as well. His only wish was that every time he saw her, she would be smiling like a flower. Seeing that Lin Jiej was staring at her silently, Shi Yao blinked her eyes and asked, "What are you smiling about?" "I'm smiling. It's so nice that no one will disturb us like this." Then, Shi Yao's phone rang. Lin Jiej. Shi Yao couldn't help but burst into laughter. Under Lin Jiej's speechless gaze, she took out her phone to take a look. It was an unfamiliar number, but fearing that she might have missed an important call, she picked it up and said, "Hello, may I know who you are?" There was only silence on the other end of the phone. Shi Yao frowned, thinking that she had dialed the wrong number. Just as she was about to hang up, a male voice suddenly sounded from the other end. "Excuse me, are you Senior Shi Yao? Calling me Senior? And a male at that?" Lin Jiej's back immediately tensed up as he focused all of his attention on Shi Yao's phone. "I'm Shi Yao." After replying, Yao couldn't help but ask. May I know if you're from G University too? That's right. I'm from G University, and I'm from the English faculty as well. Senior, do you remember me? When I entered the school, you were in charge of welcoming the new students. Yao didn't have any recollection of it, but she was too embarrassed to say that she didn't remember it. Fortunately, the man on the other end of the phone spoke up once more. You told me that I'm really tall. Oh. Yao replied with an oh. The boy on the other end of the phone thought that he had remembered him and immediately said, well, senior sister, my name is Chun Tao, the Tao of Civil and Military Strategy. I'm 18 years old this year, and I'm already an adult. I'm from Nanjing, and I have a younger sister who is in junior high this year. You're toxic. It's not like Soft Bun is doing a census, so why is he reporting in such detail? He even emphasized that he was already an adult. Was he hinting at something? Lin Jiej squeezed the nut in his hand tightly, crushing it along with the kernel. Yao was dumbfounded by this junior's words. She blinked her eyes and asked, that, Junior, do you have any business with me? Senior sister, it took me a lot of effort to find your number. I don't know if I'm being too abrupt. Chapter 805. You know that it's rude, but you still called me. Lin Jiej crushed another nut, shell, and kernel in it. Could it be that this child doesn't understand human language? Why does he keep giving irrelevant answers? Left with no choice, Yao asked once more, Junior, what do you want from me? Senior sister, are you angry? Yao, does this child really not understand human language? Yao, no, that's good. You gave me a fright. I thought you were angry. Yao hurriedly interjected, interrupting Zhang Xian's words, Junior, why don't you get down to business? Oh, I'm sorry, Senior. I tend to talk a lot of nonsense when I get nervous. Please don't take it to heart. What do you mean by talking a lot of nonsense? It's really a lot of nonsense. Also, your senior might not take it to heart, but your senior's man is. Lin Jiej squeezed the crushed kernels in his hand until they were reduced to powder. Senior, the reason why I called you is because I haven't been able to forget about you. The first time I saw you, I felt that you were my goddess. Senior, can I like you? No way. To like Soft Bun, there's no way, no, there's not even a window. With this thought in mind, the shell of the nut in Lin Jiej's hand was reduced to tiny pieces. He's actually here to confess. Yao had received far too many similar calls, so she replied calmly, if I say no, will you really obediently stop liking me? No, Senior. Regardless of whether you accept me or reject me, I'll still like you. Senior sister, can I pursue you? Hearing Wen Taolu's words, Yao felt her scalp going numb. She was stunned for 2 seconds. Then, relying on her woman's intuition, she turned around and saw Lin Jiej staring straight at her. Am I imagining things? She could sense a hint of resentment in Lin Jiej's eyes. Resentment, as if she hadn't done anything at all, made her feel guilty, as if she had betrayed him. Yao steadied her heart and hurriedly tried to prove her innocence. Junior, I'm sorry, but I'm afraid that I'll still have to reject you. I already have a boyfriend. It's fine, Senior. I don't mind. I can still break up with a boyfriend. Break up? To curse him to break up with Soft Bun in broad daylight? Is there still any law in this world? The resentment in Lin Jiej's eyes deepened. Without any hesitation, the aggrieved Yao replied resolutely, Junior, I will never break up with my boyfriend. Also, I don't like boys younger than me. Why? Senior sister? Do you like old men? Old man? Were they talking about him? This was simply too much. What's wrong with being young? So what if you're young? You're speaking as if I'm not 18 years old yet. Trying to steal his woman right in front of his face? Do you really think that I, Lin Jiej, am a pushover? Why don't you ask around to find out what his strongest hidden skill is? That's picking peach blossoms. Let's see how he's going to return to his old profession. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej suddenly spoke up, Baby. The elegant voice and the gentle tone were as mushy as one could imagine. Yao shuddered as she turned to look at Lin Jiej. Chapter 806. Shiryao widened her eyes in shock. It took her 2 seconds before she realized what Lin Jiej was doing. I'm still on the phone with Junior Wen Taowu and Junior Wu Lu. Shiryao subconsciously tried to struggle free, but Lin Jiej seemed to have predicted her reaction. He grabbed the back of her head and kissed her forcefully on the lips. Then, he pried open her teeth and forcefully entered her mouth. He kissed her for a long time, and it was only when her breathing became a little ragged that he silently lifted his eyes to look at Shiryao's phone screen. Perhaps the person on the other end had heard the slight commotion earlier and knew what Shiryao had done, but he had already hung up the call. Hee, you dare to fight with me? Lin Jiej sneered disdainfully in his heart as he deepened the kiss. It wasn't until he was satisfied that he reluctantly let go of Shiryao. Pressed against Lin Jiej's chest, Shiryao's breathing became unstable for a moment before she finally managed to catch her breath. She subconsciously glanced at her phone screen, only to see that the call had already been hung up. Then, she recalled that their kiss had been heard by Wen Taowu and Wu Lu on the other end of the line, and her face immediately reddened. She glared at Lin Jiej in embarrassment and said, Why, you did it on purpose. Lin Jiej reached out to stroke Shiryao's hair and said, I didn't do it on purpose. I did it on purpose. Before Shiryao could explode, he quickly added, Besides, Yao, I'm helping you. Do you like him? If you don't like him, then you shouldn't like him pestering you either, right? Didn't I clear the way for you just now? Shouldn't I be thanking you then? I'm doing all of this out of my own free will. However, if you insist on doing something for me to express your gratitude, I don't mind either. Why you? Shiryao puffed up her cheeks and said, My baby is angry, the kind that can't be appeased. All right, I was wrong. My baby won't be angry anymore. How about this? As Lin Jiej spoke, he took out his phone and said, Take a look at the girls in my phone and call them if you think there's something wrong with them. Then, you can use what I did earlier to force her to hang up the call. That should be fair, right? Fair my ass. Did he think she was stupid? Shiryao turned her gaze away from Lin Jiej's face. Yes. Fair my ass. How about this? I'll buy you a cake. Do I look like someone who can be dismissed with a piece of cake? No. How is that possible? Our baby needs 100 pieces of cake to satisfy him, right? Yes, we agreed on 100 pieces of cake. Okay, a lifetime of cake. In the afternoon, the phone call from his junior didn't pose much of a threat to Lin Jiej. Until nightfall. Due to Shiryao's period, she had gone to bed early. After busying himself with work for a while, Zhang Xian took a bath and climbed into bed. Just as he was about to sleep, his phone suddenly rang. Lin Jiej subconsciously reached for his phone, only to realize that it was already on silent mode. Only then did he realize that it was Shiryao's phone. He thought it was just a message, so he didn't pay much attention to it. Just as he lay on the bed, his phone rang again. It was still Shiryao's phone. Chapter 807. After the series of actions, Lin Jiej was just about to place Shiryao's phone back when the screen suddenly lit up. There was another message. Shiryao, are you really together with Lin Jiej? Who is this? Lin Jiej frowned. Following which, the screen lit up one after another and dimmed down one after another. Message after message popped up in Shiryao's phone one after another. Without a doubt, Lin Jiej knew that the sender was a man. Not to mention, he sent so many messages in the middle of the night. A light flickered across Lin Jiej's eyes for a moment before he eventually pulled Shiryao's hand to unlock the screen. He tapped into the messages on his phone and browsed through them one by one. Are you asleep? Shiryao, it's Hanjing. Are you still going to ignore me? The reason I'm here is to ask you, Shiryao, are you really together with Lin Jiej? I know that it might be true, but I want to hear it from your own mouth. Hanjing, that guy from the arts faculty who treated Softbun to fish and sang a song for her downstairs? Yesterday, he seemed to have given He Tian a call to ask her if it was true that he was together with Shiryao on the forum. Didn't Softbun tell He Tian to tell him that they were really together? Why would he still send a message to Softbun? Could it be that he still hasn't given up on Softbun? While Lin Jiej was deep in thought, Another message appeared on his phone screen. Once again, it was from Han Jing. Sure Yao, I really like you a lot. Even though you've already ignored me, I still like you a lot. I've never forgotten about you. Sure Yao, is there really no hope left for me? Why are there so many people coveting my soft bun? Lin Jiej stared at the screen for a moment before he turned to look at the sleeping girl on the bed. His eyes darkened, and he raised his finger to type a few words on the screen before sending it over. She's asleep. Does this mean that he finally gets it? He should be able to give up now, right? Lin Jiej, who felt that he had defeated Han Jing in an instant, was just about to put down his phone when another message popped up. Han Jing, may I know who you are? Han Jing. Lin Jiej? Of course it was. Could it be that he wasn't Lin Jiej but Gu Jialin? Lin Jiej flicked his finger and asked, what else? Who did you think it was? This time, Han Jing did not respond. After putting down his phone, Lin Jiej couldn't help but feel indignant. He picked up his phone again and sent a message to Han Jing. Student Han, since you're so deeply in love with Shi Yao, aren't you going to give her your blessings now that she has found her own happiness? Lin Jiej waited for a moment, but seeing that there was still no response from Han Jing, he sent another message. It looks like student Han's feelings for Shi Yao are only SOSO after all. You can't even give her a generous blessing. But even so, student Han, since we're alumni, I'll still invite you to our engagement banquet. Would you be willing to do me the honor? Hee, let's see who's going to be disgusted to death. Finally able to calm down, Lin Jiej deleted his chat history with Han Jing and returned to his message page. Only then did he realize that there were a lot of unread messages, and most of them didn't have a name attached to them. They were all 11-digit numbers. Chapter 808. Finally, Lin Jiej was able to calm himself down. He deleted all of his chat records with Han Jing and returned to his messages page. Only then did he realize that there were a lot of unread messages from Shi Yao, and most of them didn't have a name attached to them. They were all 11-digit numbers. Excuse me, are you Shi Yao? I'm Wang Su from the computer faculty. We met once at the school's auditorium. This name, this major. Most likely, it's a guy. Just like that one Tao and Wu Lu from the afternoon. They're up to no good. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej moved his fingers. I'm sorry, I'm not Shi Yao. I'm Lin Jiej's girlfriend. After successfully sending the message, he scrolled through the rest of the unread messages. Junior Shi Yao. I'm Wang Miao, a third-year student. My parents gave me the character Miao, so most people wouldn't be able to recognize it. Junior Shi Yao. I'm sending you a message to ask if I can treat you to dinner. What's so amazing about using an uncommon character as a name? To think that he would even know what to pronounce it on. Did he think that everyone was like him and had never been to school? What a coincidence. Not only did he know this character, he even knew how to use it to create words. For example, Miao like mountains and rivers, meaning as if separated by mountains and rivers. Another example would be Miao long, meaning as if forever. Another example would be Miao with each other, describing how trees compete with one another to climb higher and further away. This phrase came from a book with Zhu Yuanxi. Do you know who Zhu Yuanxi is? His name is Yushan, and his background is unknown. Do you get it? What's worse is, can I treat you to dinner? Lin Jiej sneered coldly as he moved his fingers once more. Sure, but can I bring my boyfriend along? Lin Jiej switched to another unread message. It was also from a guy. Junior Shi Yao, do you like to watch movies? I have 2 movie tickets here. Lin Jiej didn't even have the mood to retort anymore. Instead, he continued scrolling through the unread messages. There was an affectionate one. Shi Yao, even if you don't love me, I'll protect you for the rest of my life. There was an amusing one. Shi Yao, can you walk with me from head to toe until I go bald? There was also a tireless one. November 30th, good night. November 29th, the temperature will drop, so wear more clothes. Shi Yao, good night. November 28th. I want to watch a movie today. It was pretty good. I recommend you. Good night. November 27th. So, it turned out that there were actually so many men harassing Soft Bun in G University without him knowing. Lin Jiej couldn't bring himself to continue reading the unread messages anymore. The more he read, the more stifled he felt. He put down his phone and stared intently at Shi Yao's sleeping face. As he stared at her, his mind suddenly wandered off. Unbeknownst to him, his lips curled up into a doting smile. By the time Lin Jie finally came back to his senses, he realized that the depression he had been feeling from the messages from the male strangers had unknowingly dissipated by more than half as he stared at Shi Yao. It was no wonder why there were so many guys chasing after his soft bun. His soft bun was so adorable. If he were in her shoes, he would also chase after her. Didn't he spend a long time chasing after soft bun? From the looks of it, he was much stronger than those boys. Chapter 809. If one day, Soft Bun were to pluck away one of the rotten peach blossoms on a whim, he'd be in deep trouble. However, he wasn't just targeting one rotten peach blossom, but all the rotten peach blossoms in G University who were eyeing Soft Bun. Thus, he had to think of a way to uproot all the rotten peach blossoms in G University. I have to think of a way. Lin Jie bit his thumb as he stared at the ceiling. Eventually, he sat up and picked up his phone to send a WeChat message to Lu Binlai and Xia Shangzhou. Xia Shangzhou was the first to reply. Boss, what's your purpose in doing all this? Are you going to propose to little Junior? Lu Binlai followed closely behind. Boss, doesn't it hurt to ask me to do all this to help you propose? You must know that I'm a bald man at the moment, Lin Jie. I'm not proposing. Lu Binlai. If it's not a proposal, then you're torturing a dog? Xia Shangzhou. Boss, there's a saying that goes, those who show off their love will die the fastest. Didn't you get defeated by your period last night? Xia Shangzhou had actually touched on his sore spot and used the pain in his heart to provoke him. Very well. He had already noted it down in the little notebook in his heart. Lin Jie, who was bent on destroying all the rotten peach blossoms in G University, decided to let Xia Shangzhou off for the time being. I'm not showing off my love either. I'm trying to pluck out the peach blossoms. Lu Binlai. Huh? You're making such a huge fuss to declare your sovereignty? Boss, you sure know how to play. Xia Shangzhou. Boss, little Junior is already yours. Why are you still bothered about those rotten peach blossoms? Lin Jie didn't respond to the duo's words. Instead, he replied, in any case, remember to help me prepare the things I mentioned earlier. Thanks. After receiving the okay from Lu Binlai and Xia Shangzhou, Lin Jie was just about to put down his phone and go to sleep when he recalled Xia Shangzhou's earlier ridicule. He was intending to send a message to both Lu Binlai and Xia Shangzhou, but when he recalled that Lu Binlai had already shaved his head during the day, he decided to only send a message to Xia Shangzhou. You don't understand? Having a girlfriend means having a girlfriend's troubles too. This is called the blissful and sweet troubles. Xia Shangzhou quickly replied with a series of crying emojis. Ignoring him, Lin Jie put down his phone. How could a 10,000-year bachelor who couldn't even meet the girl he liked mock him? Lin Jie stretched out his arms and pulled Shi Yao into his embrace. Even if he was a man defeated by his period, so what? In the long night, he still had Soft Bun to hug him to sleep, but Ol Shirlai could only hug him tightly in loneliness. Imagining this scene, Lin Jie couldn't help but burst into laughter. He buried his head in the crook of Shi Yao's neck and closed his eyes in satisfaction. It was already 4:00 in the afternoon when he returned to school from the hot spring resort. Shi Yao and Lin Jie had agreed to have a barbecue with each other that night, but on the way back, Lin Jie suddenly received a call saying that he had an important client to meet. As much as Shi Yao wanted to eat roasted meat, she was still a reasonable person and chose to have rice noodles at the canteen. She told Lin Jie to get back to his work. It was already December, and there was only a month left before the final exam. In order to prevent herself from getting flustered before the examination, Shi Yao headed to the library in advance to do some revision. Suppressing the urge to laugh whenever she saw Lu Binlai, she asked, "Where's Lin Jie? Our boss has some matters to attend to, so he'll be leaving for a while. He told me to tell you to wait for him here." Lu Binlai said as he glanced at the textbooks in Shi Yao's embrace. "Little Junior, do you need me to hold those books for you?" Yao lowered her head to look at the 3 books in her embrace and shook her head. There's no need for that. Why don't you give it to me? I have other uses for your hand later on. Yao didn't quite understand the latter half of Lu Binlei's words, so she blinked her eyes and asked, What? You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.